It's Friday, 6:30 on a Friday afternoon. It's been a dreary week. It's been raining. It's been kind of damp. Some people's spirits are low, but other people's spirits are high. Welcome to Listening to the People with Congressman Danny Davis. You can call in at 312-738-1060, and we are always delighted and eager to take your call. I always look forward to the opportunity to give a report to the people, especially the people of the 7th Congressional District, to try and keep you abreast of what is going on. Just so we know, legislatures are having seemingly a hard time reaching agreement on issues. But that's the way democracy is. Democracy works when different people have different thoughts and ideas, and they express those thoughts and ideas. And then finally, after a lot of talk, a lot of expression, and a lot of negotiation, you make decisions. And that's democracy. That's what it means. You know, if two people agree all of the time, I often say that one of them is unnecessary. And so people should be able to reach points of agreement. The Illinois General Assembly, for example, has been attempting to draw a congressional map. And Democrats think it ought to be one way, Republicans think it ought to be another way. Some Democrats think it ought to be one way. Some Democrats think it ought to be another way. And so they have not been able to reach agreement. Therefore, they don't have a map yet that they have approved and voted on and said, this is it. Congress has been trying to pass two bills: an infrastructure bill to put money available to fix roads and bridges and highways. We got bridges in Chicago galore. You get down near the Loop, there are all kind of bridges, and they need to be, many of them, repaired. There are other bridges throughout the state. There are roads, there are potholes. All of these things need to be done. But it takes money to do them. And where does the government get money from? The government gets money from people. But guess what? The people gives the money back to the government. The government gets money from people, and people give a part of that money back to the government. So people who work pay taxes. That money goes into the treasury. And then when the government, federal government, sends money to Chicago to buy vaccine or to buy face mask or to buy gloves or to put money into the schools, that money has come right back. So it's give, it's take. It's give, it takes. Somebody decides who gives what and who takes what. these are the people that we elect. These are the people that we elect to Congress. These are the people we elect to our state legislatures. And these are the people we elect to our city council to decide how much money you're going to pay for real estate taxes, how much you're going to ask the legislature and the other taxing bodies to create the opportunity for you to pay. And sometimes you agree on it fairly easily. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have ideas. For example, I was very pleased that one of my bills was passed this week. A bill that I wrote, a bill that I introduced, a bill that put $10 billion in play to help foster children all over America. And what the bill said is that states could have the flexibility to use something called the John Chafee program money. Now, some of you probably don't know what Chafee has to do with, but Chafee is the guy who created United Parcel Service. And he had an interest in children. And they finally passed legislation named after him that provide resources to help vulnerable children. And that's where the Chafee and United Parcel also has a foundation, the Chafee Foundation, that still puts its own money into child welfare activity. And they give people grants and all and that kind of thing. What we said is that states could have flexibility in using the Chafee money while the pandemic is going on. And they could use flexibilities. For example, foster children age out at a certain age. If you're a foster child, the state provides money, federal government provides money for your keep and your care because you don't have any parents, technically. You may have lost your parents. Your parents may have died. Your parents may have abandoned you. You may not have ever even known who your parents were. There are a lot of children who never even know who their fathers are. And some don't know who their mothers or fathers are. Those are foster children. And so one of the responsibilities and one of the opportunities that I have, because I chair a subcommittee in Ways and Means that has the jurisdiction and the responsibility to try and look after foster children in this country. So we put $10 billion. It's going to do a lot of things in addition to the flexibility. It's going to keep foster children in the hands of government helping to take care of them now until they're 27 years old while the pandemic is going on. Normally they would age out at 18. It's also going to keep providing opportunity for them to go to school, go to college, go to training programs. to get driver's license, maybe even to have a car if they need one for transportation to go back and forth. So I felt very good about that because I teamed up with my Republican counterpart and got her to agree. And so all of the Republicans on the committee also agreed, and we were able to pass this bill on what we call the suspension calendar. And we passed it unanimously, meaning that nobody voted against it. Well, I felt very good about that. I feel very good about that. We have not been able, though, to pass the great big bills that we've been talking about. The infrastructure bill, we have not been able to pass that. And the Build Back America bill, which really essentially becomes the budget for next year, we have not been able to pass that. I hope we'll do it soon because I still have what we call Davis wins in that bill. And what that means, ideas that Davis promoted, that Davis came up with, some of which Davis has been promoting for years. And everything you promote 1 year, just like somebody will be running for office and they tell you, I'm going to do so-and-so, and I'm going to do so-and-so, and I'm going to do so-and-so. It may take 10 years to get that done. It may take 20 years to get it done. And so most of these people that tell you they're going to be doing all this stuff as soon as they get elected, they actually ain't going to be doing much of nothing but talking. And so talk is cheap. Talk is very, very, very cheap. And so you have to be careful in terms of what you believe, in terms of things that people say. So we'll go back next week. We do have what is called a framework. The president has actually addressed us 3 times, trying to get us to agree, trying to get us to do that. And we have not been able to get the votes in order to pass something in the House. You need 218 votes, 435 members, so you need a majority. In order to pass something in the Senate, if you've got, you're dealing with reconciliation, you can pass something with 51 votes. But if not, it oftentimes will take 60 votes to pass something in the Senate. And then you got to have the president sign off on it. And then you got to have the Supreme Court say that it is constitutional. And so it's a little more complex than just simply saying that the majority rules. That's not quite the way. Yes, the majority rules when you don't have a minority that is blocking the majority and keeping a simple majority. Now, if you get a big majority, you get 60 votes in the Senate, you're home free. Of course, in the House, both in the state legislature and in Congress, you just about need all of the Democrats. And in the Senate and Congress, you don't really have 50 Democrats. You have 48 that's in agreement, but you have two who have not been agreeing and are pushing and negotiating and are saying that the amount of money we're talking about spending is too much. And if they don't agree, then even though you got 48, you need 50. You're missing two. Therefore, you can't get it done. And so that means we'll go back next week and we'll start Monday and we'll be doing what we do, and that is trying to agree. On Tuesday, I'm kind of excited because I have an item on the floor that we will talk about. I grew up in the state of Arkansas, and so did John H. Johnson, the gentleman who started Ebony magazine. I came from a little town called Parkdale, and he came from a little town called Arkansas City, Arkansas. Well, the state of Arkansas decided to make his birthday a state holiday because he started Ebony magazine and Jet magazine. At one time, he was one of the wealthiest black people in the United States. He was the first black person to own a building down on Michigan Avenue, and he was actually renowned. He helped really push the civil rights movement when they published the pictures of Emmett Till in the Jet magazine, brutalized and beat up at his funeral and all of that. And that just created a lot of movement and momentum. And so we are going to be honoring John H. Johnson on Tuesday night. We are doing what is called a special order on the floor of the House of Representatives, where we will talk about his exploits. Once he came to Chicago, he often say that he came to Chicago after he finished the 8th grade. His mother told him, said, Johnny, when you finish the 8th grade, we're going to move to Chicago so you can go to high school. And that's because Arkansas City, Arkansas, at that time, did not have a high school for black people living in that town. And he used to jokingly say that when he finished high school, 8th grade, his mother told him, said, Johnny, we're not going to be able to go to Chicago because I didn't save enough money for us to move. So you're going to have to go to the 8th grade again. And so he says that he stayed in the 8th grade 2 years. He says, well, Mama, that's all right. I'll work and help you get. She says, nope, you are going to school. Now, I was fortunate to go. They decided to move the house he lived in. They lived in a 2-room shotgun house. And they moved that house a few years ago, just before he died, from where it was located to the downtown area and placed it next to the courthouse in Arkansas City, Arkansas. And I was fortunate to go there with him when they did it. They had a ceremony and a celebration, and that was one of his last public appearances before he died. So we will be honoring John H. Johnson on Tuesday night on the floor of the House of Representatives. It will probably be, I would imagine, about 6 or 7 o'clock, or maybe 7 o'clock when it happens. So if you want to hear that, you can just turn your television to C-SPAN, because everything that we do on the floor of the House is on C-SPAN, and you can observe that. There's still a lot of problems going on, not only in Illinois, not only in Chicago, but all over the country. There are still the problems of violence, of people killing each other, shooting each other, gunning each other down. And so we need addition. I met with 2 representatives earlier today from Mount Sinai Hospital, and we talked about what can we do to try and make sure that there's mental health treatment and mental health services for communities. And we're located right now, as a matter of fact, right down the street from the Mile Square Health Center. And I was fortunate just day before yesterday, actually, to talk with the Secretary of Health and Human Services about making sure that centers like the Mile Square continue to have the opportunity to participate in the 340B program. That is to get discounts for pharmaceutical drugs that people need. I actually get my personal health care right down the street at the Mile Square Health Center. It is an outstanding, federally qualified community health center. And oftentimes when I'm in there to see the doctor, people will see me sit in, they'll come and say, Congressman Davis, are you here to see Mr. Taylor or somebody that's in the management? And I would tell them, no, I'm actually here to see my primary care physician. This is where I get my health care. And I go there because I used to work there. Before ever running for public office, I worked at the Mile Square Health Center. I also worked at the Martin Luther King Health Center, and I worked in health care. I ran something a number of years called the West Side Health Planning Organization, where we were charged with the responsibility to try and create a health care delivery system that provided opportunity for everybody to get a high level of care. And so I was fortunate that the community health centers got started during that period of time. And I was even more fortunate to actually get the opportunity to work in them and for them. And now there were 3 in Chicago. There were 3 of the first 10 that were started in the country. Now there are more than 2,000 of them spread throughout the United States of America. They provide primary care to between 25 and 30 million low and moderate income people. and they do it exceptionally well. And so while we have not created all of the health that we need, there are thousands and thousands of people in our country, millions, who are sick and require treatment. But we hope that we are going to be able to expand or increase or provide Medicaid in some of the states that did not have as much. Chicago and Cook County, we are very fortunate to have a county health care mandate where our county government has a mandate to take care or to provide services to the medically indigent, meaning that any person in Cook County who is sick can in fact get health care. And the last resort for that is the Cook County Hospital and its clinics. Well, I see that our time has moved on. It's almost 7 o'clock. So let me thank you for viewing. Let me thank you for being a part of our discussion and for receiving the information that we provide. We look forward to seeing you next Friday. And until then, be good to yourself. Stay safe. Wear your face mask. If you have not been vaccinated, make sure that you get your vaccination. I've got to get my booster shot, and I also want to get my flu vaccination next week. So do everything that you can do to try and be as healthy as you can be. I look forward to seeing you next Friday. And until then, be good to yourself and better to even somebody else. Have a good weekend. See you next week.